And good evening, friends of the Liberty First Foundation. This is your buddy Frank coming to you from good old North Carolina as we do the weekend review for January 20th, 2023. As you can see at the moment, I'm all alone. But that's going to change just a minute because my partner, Michael Marshall, has just wait there. He's over that side. Just arrived in the nick of time. Michael, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Had better days, worse days. Today's not such a bad day. I found out that, as some of you guys might know, I'm recently diagnosed with diabetes and having some complications thereof, and had to go to the doctor yesterday because over the last month or so, I've been having a lot of trouble with my eyes, and it's a little concerning. I've spent a long period of time in my life completely blind. Something people don't know. I've had a series of eye injuries that for about 2 years of my life have not been able to see. So I take my eyesight extremely seriously. So for the last couple of months, when I've had problems with my eyesight, it was a little concerning. And then when I found out I had diabetes, we kind of figured out there might have been some causality there. So spent a while at the optometrist, whoever it is, the eye specialist yesterday, and did a bunch of tests on my eyes, and thank God my eyesight is returning to normal, which for me is 15/17 vision, which is better than 20/20, which has been another reason why I've been reluctant to go to the range because every time I pick up a handgun or to try and hit the target, I'm going to be missing. And every time I bring a scope up to my eye, the eye relief, I just could not get a picture on it. So now that I know that my sugar is starting to normalize and the pressure is starting to release off my eyes, I've been diagnosed with better than perfect eyesight. So I should be back to normal within a short period of time. And I'll be back out at the range momentarily, so to speak. We're joined tonight on our comment stream over here by Petey. What's up, Petey? My brother and our good friend Dale. How's it going, guys? So that's been that little update has been my overall week, combined into just a few hours. It was so much nervousness involved with it, and to say that that's a huge weight off my shoulders is an understatement. Because I got to tell you, there is nothing in life that you have physically that is nearly as important, other than your overall health. Your eyesight is probably one of the most important things that you have, one of the most important gifts that you have. Don't take it lightly. Don't take it for granted, because things can change in a moment and your life changes immeasurably. So take care of your eyes.
I'm living proof of that.
Yeah. If anybody knows how quickly things can change, it's you.
So yeah, I'm living proof of that, and
yeah,
I still have some complications from what happened about a year and a half ago, over a year and a half ago.
Yeah, the last year and a half have been quite the kick in the nuts for you, especially. The last 7 or 8 months have been a kick in the nuts for me. So, but hey, things happen. Things in life change. I should be right now at a show end party in Las Vegas, Nevada, as SHOT Show just wrapped up 2 hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, due to the complications I've been facing, we were unable to make the trip out there this year, and that's such a it's a gut shot. It's a gut shot.
It is, and we weren't able to make it last year because of shit that I was going through.
And the year before that, they shut down the whole show because of COVID.
Right.
Now, last year, to be fair, really wasn't, from what I understand, it wasn't all that much to miss. A lot of the showcase
well, they didn't. Nobody knew what was going to happen last year because COVID was still mainstream.
Yeah. And the people that did go last year were pretty much all reported the same thing. There were mask mandates, distance mandates. You couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. They did SHOT Show online, try to have all the showcases online with it. And that was just a big screwed up complication. So last year the year before, all right, everybody lost out. Last year, 2/3 of us lost out, but we really didn't sweat it too much because it wasn't that great to begin with. This year was supposed to be the great return. And unfortunately, circumstances beyond our control, none of us could be there. So,
right. Well, as you know, I'm still recovering from the accident that I had in May of 22.
And whatever the hell caused that. Mm-hmm. Good evening, Mr. Voss. Good evening.
And
hello,
just to give everybody, so people know what we're talking about. In May of 2022, I was on my way to work. Just typical normal day. Typical Monday morning. Headed to work just like I do pretty much every Monday morning. And while I was driving, my body decided that it no longer wanted to breathe. That's not a good feeling, especially when you are operating a motor vehicle. I'm not normally one to panic in crisis situations. So I figured, okay, breathing is an involuntary response. Yeah, you can force yourself to stop breathing, but you can only hold your breath for so long before your body says, hey, breathe. So I'm driving along. I'm thinking, okay, any second now, I'm going to start breathing again. Any second didn't come. And I'm getting more and more oxygen deprived as I'm driving along. Estimates are I went at minimum 3 minutes without breathing.
Oh.
And I lost consciousness in the process of losing. And I'm still driving. Okay. Because going through my head is I'm going to start breathing. Your body needs to breathe. So your body's going to start breathing again. Lost consciousness, went off the roadway at estimated speed somewhere between 60 and 65 miles an hour. Body needs to breathe. In the accident afterwards, I hit a stump, a town line marker post, and a ditch, and then came to rest in some trees. Ripped the front driver's side wheel off the vehicle that I was driving. And fortunately, because I was unconscious, the only injury that I sustained was a fractured wrist. They also think that somewhere in the hustle and bustle of being jarred around, it woke my body up enough to say, hey, start breathing again. When the ambulance got to me and paramedics got to me after the accident, my blood oxygen was starting to recover, and it was still only at 91%. So you figure average response time is 9 minutes. I don't know how long the response time for this one was, but my oxygen level, like I said, was still at 91%. When they got me to the hospital, which was roughly about 10 minutes away, my blood oxygen was still only at 94%. So I went for quite a while without without any air. And my blood oxygen was pretty low.
Yeah.
I don't think, when you say, all right, the truck went off the road, hit a stump, hit a county marker, ripped the front wheel off. I don't think when I saw the photos of your truck.
Let me see if I can find a picture of it. I think
I've been on the scenes of accidents where less damage was caused, and we were talking about fatalities. How in the hell the only thing that happened to you physically, other than whatever it was that happened to you that caused you to pass out in the first place, how the hell you only broke your ankle and got your
Not
wrist?
my wrist.
Yeah, I'm thinking my ankle. I'm so used to talking about that now. But how you only broke your wrist and got a little banged up, I can't possibly fathom when I see the photos of that truck. I've seen head-on collisions that had less damage than what your truck looked like.
So
And to
Joy,
say that you were fortunate that that's all that happened.
it's because he was
like-
unconscious. It's because he was unconscious and the body's loose, didn't tense up.
Oh yeah, but when you see
That
the
would've been
pictures of what got crumpled up and what got destroyed, man, I don't care how loose your body gets, you know. I mean, well, they say like when somebody gets into a drunk driving accident, if it's like a single vehicle drunk driving accident, the drunkard is usually the person that manages walking away with very little to no injury for whatever reason.
Pretty much the same principle.
Yeah. But that truck that Michael was driving, that freaking thing went into a ditch, went airborne, and hit an immovable object. The whole truck was just, there was not one part of that truck that wasn't crinkled, wrinkled, dented, damaged, broken, or shattered, except him. And I don't know how the hell that happened.
I'm trying to find a picture of it right now. I know I've got one on here someplace.
Yeah, if I could have recalled one, I would have pulled one out. But I'll tell you what, while we're waiting for you to get that, just so we have something that we can talk about, maybe something we could actually cheer collectively.
Well, good. I'm glad you got good news because I don't. That's why I was late.
All right. Well, the good news is that star of stage and screen, Alec Baldwin, renowned actor and Donald Trump impersonator galore, is going to be indicted for involuntary manslaughter in the death of his cinematographer. And I believe there will be another charge probably brought onto it because the director of the film was also hit with when he negligently fired a loaded gun.
He's under 2 counts.
They dropped this. They dropped the counts against the director for God knows what reason. But he does have 2 counts against him for involuntary manslaughter, which should have shown up a year ago. But finally, it looks like there will be some level of justice, and he has a civil suit against him as well from her family of the camerawoman.
Well, listen, leftists can finally rejoice because from what I understand, he made a deal with the district attorney that if he should happen to be sentenced to jail time, he's going to be going to jail dressed up as Donald Trump. So for all those leftists that are out there saying, oh, we can't wait for Trump to get indicted and arrested, you'll finally get your wish, except it's going to be a carbon copy. But don't worry about it. Your good friend Arek Bawlween is on the case. So with a little bit of good news, just as delayed, probably, as Jan says, he's probably just going to get a slap on the wrist. Listen, my prediction, he gets an 18-month suspended sentence in lieu of having to do like 250 hours of community service. And what they'll do is they'll spend a week in Hollywood somewhere or 2 weeks on some lavish set with him doing some sort.
Lost your sound, Frank. Lost your sound. Lost your sound, Frank. No, you're on mute. You're on mute. Mute, yeah.
I don't know how the hell that happened. I never mute myself.
I don't know either.
Well, like I said, he'll get an 18-month suspended sentence with 250 hours of community service, and he'll spend those 250 hours filming gun safety PSAs.
Pretty much.
Yeah, so he's going to basically serve his
Lost you again, Frank.
I don't know why.
Now you're back. Now you're back.
Checking my connections now, and I ain't got nothing loose here. I don't know why the hell it keeps doing.
It could be someone on the internet is lover of Alec Baldwin and upset that you're calling what's probably going to happen.
Well, who the hell knows?
Yeah.
I should not be going blank, but I am.
Yeah. Well, you're back with us. But I tell you, it's amazing to me that we've even had to go this far with so much that has been revealed and investigated, and no one else would ever be treated this way. No one. But there's different rules for the Hollywood elites, the progressive elites in our nation. They have different rules because this man should have been arrested a long time ago.
If you look at how much work was done by the district attorney's office out there, trying to find a way how the gun could have gone off accidentally, instead of just proving how it can't go off accidentally.
Yeah, it was.
I've never seen a district attorney work so hard to try and exonerate a suspect as the district attorney out there did.
Because they didn't want to do this. They have been trying, Hollywood has been trying to remediate his public image, and they have been trying to let people forget about this story. They have dropped this like a rock. They tried to make sure no one heard about this, and if they did hear about it, they only heard the positive things about Alec Baldwin and how this had to be an accident. And in fact, as we have seen, and it has been checked and rechecked and rechecked, the only way that bullet could have gone off is because he pulled the trigger and he was pointing the gun at her and he fired. This man is guilty of multiple crimes. He's negligent with a firearm. He needs to go to jail. And he needs to go to jail for a long time. Not community service, not spending a bunch of money. He needs to go to jail because you would go to jail. I would go to jail. Mike would go to jail. Everyone watching this would be in jail. We would have been in jail over a year ago. He needs to go to jail. He needs to go in for a long time. He's an evil SOB. And the fact that he has been trying to blame everyone except his own actions is insane. We went over this at the time. He had the responsibility to make sure that firearm was empty and safe. He disregarded that. He pointed a firearm, loaded or not, at a human being, and he pulled the trigger. I don't care what someone told him. The second he had that firearm, as we all know, and it's been well discussed, and even Hollywood, members of Hollywood have come out and said, no, you get handed that firearm, you check the firearm, you make sure it's safe, and you do not point it at a human being anyway. He knows that. He's been around Hollywood. That's why there's only been like 4 incidents with a firearm in the last 70 years of Hollywood. He knows this. Hollywood knows this, and he needs to be punished. And that is a bad accident. That's a very bad accident.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you can crop that picture and zoom in on it a little so the viewers can actually get a better look. Because if you don't know that's a truck, you don't know that's a truck.
So that is on our website. I will try to open that up in a new tab and see if I can get it bigger.
Oh, there's a joke there.
There is. What's that? Oh, don't hold back now.
No, I'll let somebody. I'll let somebody in the comment section pick up on the joke that everybody else but me missed.
Okay, someone will figure it out.
If the 30 some odd years, Peter doesn't even have to say the punchline. He just knows where my mind went automatically.
Okay. But
so there's the picture.
That's just one mess.
Like I say, there's not one.
Okay, they did have to cut me out of the truck. The driver's side front wheel was ripped clean off the truck. It was not a good day, to say the least.
No, Michael, you're wrong.
Well, it was a good day. I'm still
That was
alive.
a damn good day because
Yeah.
an inch to the left or to the right could have been the worst day of any of our lives because we could have lost you that easily. That was a phenomenal day because God Himself got between you and somebody who had your number and said, "Nope, not today." When
I narrowly missed.
you got to stop
A,
being a glass is half full kind of guy, a glass is
telephone
half full
pole.
kind of guy.
Also,
That's miraculous, man. That's just miraculous. I mean, that's
yeah,
just,
it is.
But that's a good thing because now we got you with us. People, you got to take care of your health. You gotta. I know it's tough for us all, and we're all getting older. But sadly, a lot of what you're talking about, Mike, that happened to you, a lot of people don't know this. It actually happened to my father. He died that way. It wound up that he had, we believe, it was either a complication of Agent Orange or a stroke while he was driving, went off the road, smashed into a couple things, wound up being in the ICU, and much as in his nature, once everyone was away from him for a couple of minutes, he passed away. But the truck looked similar, worse, but similar to the damage you had there. It's a scary thing.
Well, I also don't know if this is a testament to the way modern cars are designed, but that's from the looks of it, 2015, 2016 Chevy.
That was a 2020.
2020. All right.
Or actually 2021 Chevy Colorado.
Damn, you didn't even give your boss the time to let that thing break in.
No.
Hey, the truck valiantly gave its life in the protection of yours.
Thank God.
Yeah,
Sometimes
so testament to some of these new trucks. I mean, we can bitch, moan, and complain about how the old, we all reminisce and love the old trucks, the old cars, and all the rest of that. But a lot of those things, they didn't give you a whole lot of opportunity to walk away as some of the new cars do.
True. I mean, it's the give and take, but I still don't want an electric vehicle for any of it.
Oh, hell no. No. Like I said, we were talking the other night, is the only way that you could ever see, that I could ever see an electric vehicle becoming mainstream enough for the average consumer would be when, one, the prices come.
I'm going to show you where the accident was and what I somehow miraculously missed.
And second, they have to be able to go 1,200 miles between charges.
Well, that ain't going to happen for a long time.
Okay.
Well, that's why it's not viable yet.
So I came off the road. There's a town line post mark in here.
Yeah.
There was a tree stump here. That's what ripped off the front tire. I barely missed this phone pole. I end up at rest where this was. Up against those trees.
It's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's no phone pole.
I mean, a little variation, I could have been in that house. And yes, people do live there. Actually, the person that lives there is the one who called the ambulance for me.
Scared the hell out of them.
So.
And yes, Jan, I know that
So yes,
the state
it could have been a lot worse.
Jan mentions in talking about the electric vehicles that there's a state that's phasing out all of the electric vehicles, but I haven't heard about anyone phasing out.
Actually, there's multiple states that are trying to do that.
Well,
Wyoming, Montana.
Wyoming is the first.
Let's see, Wyoming, Montana.
Well, right now, Wyoming is the only one I believe that's actually done it. I haven't looked
Montana's
into
got
it.
legislation that they're voting on now.
Yeah, I haven't seen exactly what their justification for wanting to ban them is. I mean,
Because of their oil industry.
Well,
well, they're not gonna come out blatantly and say, "Oh, this is gonna hurt our oil industry."
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what they're saying.
So they actually came out and be honest
Yes.
about it. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, that's pretty good.
well, there's
It's
a bunch of other.
It's nice to hear honesty. No, but I mean, some states that are looking to do this are all saying the same thing. One, when one of them catches on fire, they take 12 times the amount of water or fire retardant to be able to put the fire out. Two,
If
the
they
electrical,
can get it put out.
yeah, if they can get it put out. Two, the electrical grid is not sustainable to have this many charging units around. They don't have the ability to install the supercharger facilities, the ones that you can bring in and charge 10, 20, 40 of these things. So they don't have the infrastructure for that. So there are all legitimate reasons that they could cite for not wanting to have these things in there. And some of them are going as far as to say, okay, if you want to buy an electric car, we're not going to prevent you from buying an electric car. However, you're going to have to find your own way how to generate electricity for it, because you're not going to be able to plug it into a public service station, and the utilities coming to your home aren't substantial enough for you to put one of those home charging units in. So unless you have an alternative means of producing power on your own, either wind, solar, or hydro, or nuclear, you're going to be shit out of luck, because you can get it and have just enough electricity to drive it from the dealership to your house.
Well, it's the same problem on the macro scale as it is on the micro scale. Like in New York State, like in California, if you actually looked at their departments of energy, they will tell you and they will show you that for the next 2035, that after about year, depending on the state, 5, 6, 7, none of them go past year 7 in these 10, 20-year plans. Somewhere around year 5, 6, 7, roughly about 2030, every single one of these states has a gap of at least 10%, some or more, that says, oh yeah, we need 10% more power for all these electric vehicles and the electric stoves and the conversion. Just for having the population, we need 10% more power than it is actually possible to generate by that time frame. They cannot make enough electricity, no matter whether it's wind, solar, even with nuclear and everything that we have right now. They cannot make enough electricity going the green energy route to be able to make up the difference for what they're doing. But they're still, like New York, California in particular, they're still saying, but you have to go all electric, even though we can't possibly make enough electricity, even though the electric grid can't possibly handle that electricity. That is a fact coming from the states themselves, but they kind of downplay that news when they're talking to the public. But if you actually look at the state and look at their own data, they can't possibly make this work, which is one of the reasons why some states, I assume, are saying, we're not going to do it because it doesn't work. It's that simple.
Well, unless they plan on canceling everybody's gas stoves so that they can save the natural gas to run more gas generators to produce more electricity. But then again, how do you transmit it when you have wires that can't sustain it?
You can't transmit it. And most likely the only thing they would do at that point, and we're kind of seeing it with California now, is they just turn it off. They just go, you want to charge your car? Sorry, no, you can't do that. Turned off. And you want to use the stove? Turned off. Electricity for your heat? Turned off. That's how they do it.
For people who don't necessarily understand the whole thing about transmission lines and electricity and stuff like that, you have two currents. You have AC and DC. You have alternating current and direct current. Alternating current, the current phases positive, negative, positive. It phases all the way. Direct current is what your cars have. It's that constant voltage going through it. If you ever open up the panel box in your house and you look at your fuses and you see that you've got 10 amp, 15 amp, 20 amp, 30 amp, 60 amp fuses, you'll notice that there's wires of different sizes. They're called gauges.
Mhm.
Right now, your house, most of the wires in your domestic residential house are 14, 12, and 10 gauge wires. Those are the three wires that are used. Your dryer or stove, if it's electric, is probably being run on a 10 gauge wire, which is pretty fat. Your regular outlets that your lamps are plugged into, probably on a 14 gauge. It's pretty thin. 12, somewhere in the middle, that's where some of your kitchen appliances and everything else are going to run off of that. For everybody to have the kind of electric in their house that they're talking about, go outside and look at your transmission cable. It's either a 60 amp, 100 amp, or 200 amp. And you see how fat that cable is? Triple that. Triple that. You'd be going from cables the size of your pinky, just two cables running into your house, two cables the size of your pinky to two cables the size of your forearm. And that's what, when you see your power lines overhead, you see those lines, those are your transmission lines. And then they go to that transformer. It's two different kinds of loads,
Step down,
voltages
step
that are
up.
going through there. So they have to, they have to transform the voltage to turn it into residential. Every cable that you see going up and down the street, every cable we have running underground, every transformer, every substation, everything that we have in this country would all have to get ripped out and double or triple the size and the capacity of everything we have just to facilitate a 10% increase in the number. If we replace 10% of our automotive fleet in this country with EVs, you'd have to triple everything. And our struggle, it cannot be done.
No.
Okay, I'm going to step in here because this is actually in my wheelhouse. Okay. If some of you don't know this, what I do for a living is I work on
The railroad.
I work on radio systems for safety, which means that I work with electricity. Primarily, I work with DC, with vehicles and so forth, but I also work with a lot of AC. And what Frank's talking about is exactly right. Our current electric grid can barely handle, actually, it's failing in many places, the load that's on it now, because there's several factors involved here. Okay, one is the amount of generation capabilities that we have currently in the United States. And the fact that they are trying to get rid of anything that is created via fossil fuels is a factor that we need to consider along the way. Okay, because even if we transition everything over into EVs, and let's say our grid could handle it,
Mm-hmm.
that means we're still consuming a ton of fossil fuels if it's all being generated, if the electricity is being generated by fossil fuels, i.e. coal, natural gas, or diesel, etc. So if our energy is being generated primarily by fossil fuels, we're not gaining a lot by changing over into EVs. Yeah, we're gaining some less pollution, i.e. the internal combustion engine isn't pushing out pollution, but we're gaining in the fact that we have to have a lot more facilities generating electricity. So it's a wash. And actually, most of the studies that are out there say that fully electric vehicles currently are not more environmentally friendly than internal combustion engines when you factor in how the electricity is made, when you factor in all the resources and all the carbon and everything that's required to get the stuff for the batteries, to manufacture the vehicle, etc. So it's a wash. Right.
And you want to know what's I just wanted to jump in real quick and tell you, the girl who plays Captain Marvel, the hell is her name? I forget her name. She's the Captain Marvel girl.
I have no clue.
I know who you're talking about.
Whatever her name is. Whatever her name is. She hawks vehicles for some Japanese car company. Honda, Toyota, Nissan. I'm not sure what it is. And her big commercial now is the EV that they're selling. And I took special note of this commercial. She says it's a zero emissions vehicle. I watched this commercial, and it was funny because we have we can record stuff shit in the house, like TiVo. Commercial came out about 3 months ago, and when she says it's a zero emissions vehicle, it's just a picture of her driving in a car. The commercial is still airing today. She says, this is a zero emissions car. And they put up a disclaimer right under her. Like it says stunt driver on closed course, do not attempt these maneuvers.
Yeah.
It says zero emissions at the tailpipe. So now they're having to admit on the commercials, these are not zero emissions vehicles.
Yeah, they're not.
Zero emissions there. Not zero emissions where your electricity is produced. Not zero emissions where the emissions for mining all the cobalt and the
lithium,
slave labor is being used to get the cobalt out of the ground, and the environmental damage that they're doing, strip mining, 500-acre parcels of land to go in there, and they're talking, what do you get? For 2 ounces of cobalt they need for the batteries, they've got to mine 2,200 pounds of ore. And they have to treat it, and they have to chemically extract all of that. So when they say zero emissions at the tailpipe, well, start adding up all the emissions from the time that first shovel goes into the ground until that EV gets charged at your house. Now, I want to see that study be done by the government to say, okay, which one of these is actually cleaner? Because as far as I know, the cleanest fuel that you can burn in a car is actually diesel. You know why?
How much?
Diesel burns. It produces 2 things. Carbon in heavy form, which goes up a couple feet and then settles right back down. It's not airborne after a while. And it produces CO2. Well, what the hell needs CO2 on the planet? Trees. What do trees give us in exchange for CO2? Oxygen. You need CO2 to produce oxygen. Thank you, diesel vehicles. Happy breathing. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest because that was just only because I can't stand that actress. And when I saw that, Brie Larson. And when I saw that commercial, I was like, oh, the hypocrisy in that, because they make that little subtitle so small that you could barely friggin' read it, but it says no emissions at the tailpipe.
Because they'll get sued otherwise. It's false advertising. It's not true. But that's true of almost everything we're talking about when it comes to the green energy movement. The whole, the economy, the world's going to end unless we have windmills and solar panels. There's so many lies in this that even the left acknowledges and talks about, like in the Planet of the Humans documentary.
Well,
it's all a lie.
Vess, do you know why drug companies, when they have commercials, have to, instead of listing their potential side effects at the bottom of the screen, you always have the person at the end of the commercial, side effects could include bleeding, diarrhea, all the rest of that crap that they give you. You know why they do that now? It's to avoid the lawsuits, not from ignorant people who don't know better. It's for the visually impaired.
Yeah, so that they can't say they couldn't see it.
Right, they can't see it. Well, you know what? The visually impaired can't see that little disclaimer on the bottom of the EVs, but since there's not a lot of visually impaired people going out there buying Priuses right now, they're going to get away with it.
Yeah.
They can get away with it. So the people who just listen to the commercial don't, and that same commercial plays on the radio.
Yeah.
And the automotive companies are not required to list that disclaimer in audio format on the radio either,
They get sued.
because it's available on TV.
Okay, so this is an article from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention,
Yeah.
National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, NIOSH, or OSHA. Okay, and it's particularly about cobalt. And if you notice right here in the middle of the screen, it's got a bunch of batteries. Cobalt is a hard gray metal that occurs naturally. It's found in rocks, soil, water, plants, and animals, including people. It can harm the eyes, skin, heart, and lungs. Exposure to cobalt may cause cancer. Workers may be harmed from exposure to cobalt-containing products. The level of harm depends upon the dose, duration, and the work being done. Okay, cobalt is
lithium
used
meter.
in many industries as cutting, grinding tools, pigments, paints, colored glass, surgical implants, batteries, some electroplating, and its radioactive isotope is used in imaging and food irradiation. Some examples of workers at risk being exposed to cobalt include workers who work in industries processing cobalt alloys, miners who work in the metal mining industries, workers involved in the production or use of cutting or grinding tools, employees who work at nuclear or radiation facilities.
But left out people who drive electric vehicles because of the cobalt lithium batteries.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well,
Okay.
this
The following resource provide information on occupational. Okay, so these are where you can get. Useful search terms for cobalt include cobalt metal dust, cobalt metal powder, cobalt metal fume, and elemental cobalt.
Yeah, that's what they make the batteries out of.
Well, between the cobalt and the lithium, it's the asbestos of the 21st century. Because I'm predicting, God help us, we're all still alive 20 years from now, 30 years from now. You're going to start seeing all the class action lawsuits all over. Have you or someone in your family been exposed to cobalt lithium batteries? Have someone you know died or been seriously injured due to a cobalt lithium battery? Please join this class action lawsuit. That's what's going to happen. It'll be the mesothelioma of the 21st century, except all of those poor bastards in third world countries that are dying every day to mine this crap are not going to be eligible for compensation. These people are making $1 to mine this crap. They're barely making enough money to eat. There's women in pits, 500-foot deep pits that have their week-old babies strapped to their back, and they're down there with a pickaxe and a shovel trying to mine this shit out of the ground. Why? So Greta Thunberg, or whatever the hell her name is, so people don't have to feel guilty when she goes, "How dare you? You stole my childhood. You've ruined my dreams."
Yeah, she isn't worried about the childhood of the child labor in many of the African nations that actually dig up the lithium and the cobalt that's necessary and absolutely required. Most of the rare earth metals that are required for any of these green energy, whether it's a windmill, solar, hydro, they all use rare earth metals. That comes from Africa. That comes from child labor. That comes from literally little kids, 5, 7, 10, digging in mines all day long. It's terrifying. I know that Pete wants to go on that. I want to shift the conversation slightly as well. And
okay, I want to just bring up, because we're talking about lithium, because that's another thing that's commonly used.
Yeah.
So here I've got a PDF that I'm actually, I'm going to try to find different. Here we go. Lithium hydride.
Yeah, while you bring that up, hang on. I just want to see the link.
Oh, that Pete posted?
Yeah, so bear. I just want to try and. Oh, good, got it.
Okay, so I've got this up now. So
Go ahead.
let me get it on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I see this
So
now.
this is again from the Centers for Disease Control. Okay. Exposure routes, inhalation, ingestion, skin and or eye contact. Symptoms: irritation to eyes, skin burns, mouth, esophagus burns if ingested, nausea, muscle twitches, mental confusion, and blurred vision. Target organs: eye, skin, respiratory system, and central nervous system. Okay. OSHA recommends that you wear a respirator when working with lithium.
Yeah, imagine what no one's thinking about is with all the batteries, solar panels need to be replaced about every 7 years, especially in the Northeast. You have to replace all of these batteries in these electric vehicles about once every 10 to 12 years. You can't just put them in a dump, and you have to somehow get rid of them, like burn them or otherwise destroy them. This is leaching into the environment through the soil. It's going to get into the water table. It's going to get into people's bodies. And as much as you're right, Frank, that this is going to be an issue that's going to affect tens of millions of people, whether they have the electric vehicles or not. And you're right, Mike, in showing these are all the symptoms that are going to continue to expand, and more people are going to have these symptoms. The fact is, we're never going to be able to sue because this is done by the government, and the government is giving the leeway for this because they have sold everyone on this idea that this is the best thing. It's like ethanol. Ethanol is destroying the oxygen in the oceans. It is a fact. It is a scientific, documented fact that we have known about since 2008. And we do it anyway. We're doing it more today than we were doing in 2008. And we know it's destroying the Gulf of Mexico. We know it's destroying the Atlantic and Pacific. It's taking the oxygen out, and it is killing the plants, the plankton, the fish. It's killing everything in the oceans. We know this, and we do it anyway. They're going to do this no matter how many people it hurts, because it's a political agenda which is meant to change the way people live so that the government has more control over these individuals.
Well,
That's the science.
You can't possibly calculate the human toll when you don't count the humans.
Well, yeah.
And the people that are digging the holes and extracting this out, they're not accounted. They have their nameless, faceless. There's no documents of their birth. There's no documents of their life, no documents of their death. They are an endless stream of replaceable workhorses that nobody gives a shit about. They go into the pit alive. If they die down there, they don't even take the body out of the ground. It just gets covered up. It's like when they built the Great Wall of China. They say for every 10 feet of the Great Wall of China, a dozen Chinese soldiers died. Mm-hmm. And the people that are digging these pits, listen, nobody cares about them. And the governments that are pushing all this crap on us, if you look at their agenda, they want to thin the herd by 90%. This is just a means to end for them. They don't care how many people die because, look, it's just less people. It's less people. And don't worry if we run out. There's 1 billion in China that we can import to come over here. The Chinese will be happy to send them over there so they're not responsible for them.
Well, effectively in the plant.
The greatest scourges in, well, we all know how absolutely horrific slavery was in America from the time of the conquistadors until 1863. We know that how horrible it was. Mm-hmm. But the scale and scope of what's happening in the world right now, it pales in comparison. There are tens of millions of slaves in this world, mm-hmm. people that are worked to death on a daily basis so people can have luxuries they don't need, luxuries that make them feel relatively superior because they have a green agenda. And they don't care because the people that die are nothing more than fucking fertilizer. They don't care. And when we say, listen, there's a toll for this, the media doesn't report on it. They turned a blind eye, and it's all part of the grand scope of things. You know, it's always, well, there's a billion more where they came from.
Well, that's part of the whole process. The Planet of the Humans, which was partially produced by Michael Moore, a documentary on green energy and its effectiveness, which is also backed by Obama's green energy czar, says that ultimately their answer is, very subtly, they mention, well, it's people. You got to get rid of the people because none of this stuff works. You have to drop the population. That's the only thing that will achieve the green energy goals of Greta Thunberg and the rest. And these are just systems and symptoms of how to get to that end. That's why China doesn't care about the pandemic and that they're killing 200,000, 300,000. They have too many people anyway. They don't care. Their plan is to drop their population anyway. They don't care. So this is insidiously bad and evil, and it's happening all over the place. You mentioned the fact that we're talking about how they're using the green movement to try and justify the evil that's happening here. Let me transition for a second. There's a reason why when we had the full screen up, I have on my name that Atlanta is in my heart tonight. A lot of people may not be aware of this because the news media severely suppressed this in America. Atlanta is under threat of violence tonight. There's a bunch of insurgents. And when I say insurgents, I mean insurrectionists. I mean Antifa. I mean these autonomous zones in Atlanta that have called for a night of rage to attack civilians, human beings, our neighbors in Atlanta because they don't like them. And anyone who thinks, Mike, you're just making that up, you're going too far, you're being hyperbolic, let me be very clear. I will show you exactly what I mean. It's right here on the screen now, guys. You can bring it up. This is the message that came out on Twitter before they got removed from Twitter. And you can show the screen. This is from the Daily Mail, by the way. You have to go to the United Kingdom to find out what's happening in Atlanta tonight. Okay? And tonight, these guys, the defenders of the Atlanta forest, which is Antifa, they are insurgents. They have created an autonomous zone in Atlanta, and they are upset with the police, so they want to attack the police and their allies. That's the key words there. Police and their allies. What is an ally of the police? A law-abiding citizen. Someone who may not agree with the tactics of Antifa or BLM, the riots. They're the problem. And they're saying, no, we want you to go out in your neighborhood and attack the police and law-abiding citizens because they don't agree with these guys who are saying, we're trying to hug the trees in Atlanta. We've taken over the property of the city of Atlanta. They have an autonomous zone. They took property that isn't their own. They illegally broke every single law in Atlanta and the state of Georgia and the United States government and the Constitution because they wanted to. And anyone who disagrees with them is their enemy. And now they want to go out and fight those people, your neighbors, for daring to not listen and obey every word they say. I have just done a video on this, which is now up and is available for people. So you can see this for yourself. Do I have it here? No, I just finished a video. That's literally why I was late today. Going through, this is the exact same thing. The autonomous zone in Atlanta in 2020, July 5th, killed an 8-year-old girl. Her name was Sequoia Turner, and she was killed because of the autonomous zone in Atlanta, because of Rashard Brooks and because of George Floyd. Literally, their parents turned the wrong way on the street and were shot down, killing that 8-year-old girl. And they are doing the exact same thing now. They are out there saying, hey, if you don't listen to us, if you don't obey, we are going to harm you. And I am afraid for Atlanta that these people, yes, there it is. The only thing they're saying is it's a high alert, but they won't tell you why. They won't go into that it is this organization, which is Antifa, which is far left.
Well, right here it tells you Ben Perez Ferran, 26, was killed Wednesday after he shot a Georgia State trooper conducting a custody and occupying for months. Year of investigation, Ferran shot at troopers without warning, critically injuring one. And then they killed Ferran.
Yes.
After he shot at them first.
That is what the police have said. Yes. And the answer,
okay,
from
shortly
Antifa,
after the shooting, flyers calling for a night of violent retaliation on Friday night.
Oops, we lost Mike. But Mike's right. And we see this, and this is from their local news station. This should be national news. This is what happens when you have an autonomous zone. This is what you have. This is what an insurrection is. It is when a group of people, whether it's some of them from the state and many of them from out of the state, come together and say, we don't agree with the laws. You have to listen to us instead. Why is this not national news? Because they support Antifa, they support BLM, they support this idea that you can have an autonomous zone. You can break every law in America at the local, state, and federal level, that you can break every single law that violate the Constitution. And as long as you say, oh, I have the right political ideology, it's okay. This is what cost the life of an 8-year-old child. This may cost the life of another 8-year-old child tonight. I am angry about it. I am pissed off. I am worried for the people of Atlanta. And this must be said. This is horrendous because they got into a fight with the police because they have been fighting people, and I've documented. I just did a video on it. Literally, it's up on my channel now, where I've shown the Rolling Stone magazine identified the first thing that the Rolling Stone had to say about this back in September of 2022 is that these guys are violent and they attack innocent people. First thing from the left-leaning Rolling Stone magazine. And today we're finding out they want to go out into the city of Atlanta and do even more of that. And nobody in the major news media is willing to tell people this is what happens when you get an autonomous zone. That's why it's insurrectionist, and that's why you should oppose it. It's very upsetting to me.
Well, I've been paying attention to the feed from a lot of my Second Amendment friends.
Yeah.
Many of whom are at SHOT Show at the moment. A number of them are residents of the great state of Georgia. And a good number of them actually decided to cut their trip short so they could go home. Because they all have said to me the same thing, and they've said it in public, and I can say it on their behalf. Son, this ain't San Francisco. This ain't CHOP. This isn't Seattle. You're coming down south, and you're gonna do this, and you're gonna have problems. So now I anticipate that as soon as there's another Rittenhouse situation down there, that's when it'll start getting some mainstream media coverage. When somebody who's taking a flaming dumpster and pushing it through the window of some mom and pop hardware store, gets popped in the head, because people live upstairs from the store. That's when the media will take notice of it and start saying, "Oh my God, these innocent,
these peaceful protesters,
all is quiet, all is well, nothing to see here. These peaceful protesters have been attacked by these hardline MAGA white supremacists.
Yeah.
That's when the media will come on. The problem is for the media, that shit don't fly no more. It didn't fly to begin with for at least half the nation.
Yeah.
But I think now we've gotten to the point where 65% of the people now honestly look at the media with a skeptical eye, and they read between the lines. That's the line the media gives us when you read between it.
Yeah.
So that's where it's coming to. But
Now,
Well,
I want to.
Go ahead.
Jan brought up something, so I'm going to transition again on everything. Jan wants to know what our thoughts on the debt ceiling limit now being in default and the White House refusing to talk to the GOP. I want to actually show something here, because lots of times when we talk about the debt, we fail to talk about the debt owed to the United States. So I just want to, if we're going to discuss this, we need to discuss the fact that the United States is owed money by a bunch of countries as well, and show what that balance is. And actually, when I just looked this up, it actually kind of surprised me. So here it is. Now, this was in 2015. I don't know what it is today. This is the most current that I could find. And as of 2015, when this was done, the United States was owed $9.4 trillion, and it owed 6.3. So that actually means the United States was on the plus side in 2015. Now, I'm sure that has changed dramatically, but that's what it was in 2015.
There's a lot of things that have changed, like Ukraine as an example, but there's others. What we've done for Pakistan, some other countries.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing about this is, more countries owe us money than we owe them because we constantly are giving them money. But the biggest source of our debt is to the American people.
Right.
And that's what everyone forgets. You could take these two numbers, put them together, and throw them away, and it still is nothing compared to the amount of debt to the American people that we have, which I believe is somewhere around, depending on how you count it, $100 trillion.
What, the debt that the American people owe individually, or the money that we're owed in our unfunded liabilities like Social Security?
Unfunded liabilities.
Money that they've stolen from Social Security and other programs
No.
that we pay into.
Michael, it was in a lockbox. It was in a lockbox. That money was in a lockbox.
In the Corvette. Locked in a garage.
It was in a lockbox. Al Gore assured us I'm going to put that money in a lockbox. But
now,
it's never stolen. It's just reallocated for more important purposes. Listen, you're not going to retire for 20 years. We need to use that money today. It'll be there in a lockbox by the time you're ready to retire. So,
right, of course it
is. Yeah, we're just reallocating it temporarily because we know better. Lockbox.
Well, the thing that they don't often tell you about how much the U.S. owes to the American people is some of these programs are veteran programs.
Yeah.
Okay. That's one of the reasons why the VA hospital system is in such disarray. It's one of the reasons why there's problems with all types of veteran benefits, college, whatever, the VA housing programs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. It used to be that if you're a veteran and you applied for a VA loan for a house, you're instantly approved. Now you have to have an extremely good credit rating in order to get approved for a VA loan in order to get a house.
Yeah, but
That's because money has been stolen out of these veteran programs to fund bullshit, for lack of a better word.
well, yeah. And they're going to keep doing that. They're
Mhm.
not going to stop. This is, how do we put it? The emphasis has gone on to the making people feel good than actually being good, rather than living good, rather than improving the quality of life. We're distracting people with how do you feel, making sure they feel like something is happening. It's just do something, government. It's do something. They are doing stuff that makes you feel like it's okay. Meanwhile, they are wasting money in the most ridiculous places ever. And to directly answer your question, Jan, what do I think about the debt ceiling? Shut down the government, cut at least 10% off the top of what we are spending as a government every year for the next 20 years. And for the time being, shut down the government. Just shut it all down. I'm more than happy, and if the Republicans had any balls, shut down the government until we can get a deal that says we are going to go across the board, every department, every part of our government, and cut at least 10%. That's it. No ifs, no ands, no buts, no exclusions, no exceptions, everything. Every department of the government, every part of the government, 10% off the board, gone. And if we can't do that for the next 20 years, and if we can't do that now, we shut down the government until we can.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Okay. As you know, I am a huge proponent that our government is spending excessively, and it's also spending unconstitutionally on many programs that should have never been funded.
Well, the biggest problem with shutting down the government is the tentacles. Government, look, our government has gotten so big, so ridiculous, so huge, this behemoth, this ridiculous entity that we have here. It's just shutting down the government is not just going to be a matter of just shutting down the government. There's going to be so many services that would get shut down along with shutting down the government.
Yeah.
And here's the issue also with shutting down the government. Okay, when government gets shut down, that means that various segments of government employees don't get paid.
All right. Yeah. Well, all right. All right. But let's not go crying a big shed of tear right there for that, because every time the government shuts down and it reopens, all those government employees get their money back with interest.
Yeah.
A big lump sum with a bonus. I don't want to hear no bullshit, because when the government shut my job down, I didn't get it. I didn't get it back when they turned it back on. I didn't get unemployment. I didn't get any benefit for that because I don't work for the government. The problem is when you shut down the government, which I'm all for shutting down the government because I think a government that functions least functions best. The problem is government has gotten to be such a leviathan and has encroached into every single part of our lives to the point where things you wouldn't necessarily believe government has anything to do with anyway, or shouldn't have anything to do with, that shit gets shut down too. Good. So I know it sounds good, but here's the problem that you have when you the good thing is it exposes all the things that government has its hands on that it should not have its hands on. Things that should all be relegated back to local government, community government, and the communities themselves. But the fact is the people are so used to having the air conditioning turn on when they want it and not having to change the batteries in the remote control. They're so used to the comfort that anytime there's any sort of disruption in the system, within 3 days, somebody's going to fold because nobody has got the balls to play it out and say, listen, don't blame me for shutting down the government as the reason why you can't go to the park. Ask your government why they're running your park.
Well,
instead of your local mayor. Ask the governor why the fishing trawlers up in Alaska that go out fishing for crab have to apply for their permits and get approved for somebody in Washington, D.C. Don't you think the people in Alaska, the Fish and Game Services in Alaska, instead of being a federal entity, should be a state entity, and that they would know best how to regulate and operate the fishing that goes off on the Bering Sea, where they could better patrol things and make sure that the ecology is okay. We're not overfishing and we're not doing it. Shouldn't that be a state issue? But the problem is, we are so impatient as a nation that as soon as something shuts down, everybody starts screaming, open up, open up, open up, instead of saying, why the hell is the government involved with this in the first place?
But see, let me take the counter to that, Frank. That's why I want the government to shut down. Not only to identify why we have government in things that it has absolutely no purpose in, but more importantly, also, it is the only way to retrain and redo everything. We learned this from the lockdown. We need people to suddenly go, oh, that creature comfort, that thing that I just wanted because it's there, no longer is the thing you're going after. That we stop wasting ourselves on the feel goods and go back to the must-haves.
Well,
we need to focus on that. And that's why our government's so bloated.
I'm a big proponent to giving every kid a butter knife and pointing them in the direction of the electrical outlet. I'm serious. I'm a big proponent to that, because you could tell a kid not to do something 1,000 times, he's never going to listen to you. It's not until he goes and he does it and he gets hurt over it that he stops doing stupid shit. That's why kids always grab kid grabs a hot pot once, it's the last time he's going to do it.
I agree with that.
People need to feel it in order to realize that there's a problem. But the problem is, when people feel it now, they don't blame themselves for grabbing something. They blame the thing for being hurtful. They blame the pot instead of their stupidity. Or they blame something other than the cause of the problem. And they never get to the root problem. Then instead of saying, why can't I get a copy of my birth certificate? Why can't I get my driver's license renewed? Why can't I get my vehicle redone? Why can't I do this? They don't turn around and they say, well, why are government regulations so insane that I have to jump through all these hoops? Why can't I get that permit to build onto my house? Peter will attest to that. How much bullshit you got to go through for that kind of stuff. Instead of saying, well, why aren't I free to just do this? Why do I have to go through somebody else's bells and whistles? People aren't patient enough to be able to withstand a shutdown for any length of time, that they're going to take their ire and direct it at the right people. Because the people the people who sat by and cursed that the whole world got shut the hell down are the same people listening to the people who shut down the government, telling them to put the fucking mask back on. They don't learn.
I can only hope more people would learn this time around, because we are becoming a banana republic.
We are a banana republic already. We're there.
Well, the rest of the world is using our dollar, which is the thing that prevents us from becoming a banana republic. But we can't keep doing this. It's inevitable that someone is going to come to us and say, pay up. And we can't. We can't. We are spending so much. It is ridiculous that people look at the budget. Biden just spent $6.5 trillion. We only generate 4.1 in taxes. You cannot run anything like that. No business, no person could ever survive this. The government only gets away because they keep printing money. We need to shut this all down. We need to cut it down, and we need to get back to what I need versus what I want. What you want is great if you're doing well. The nation isn't doing well. It hasn't been doing well for decades. And we need to get back when they had some kind of balls, like in 76, like in the 80s, the shutdowns that Mike is showing on the screen.
Well, hold on a second.
To show you what kind of a screwed up country we live in. In 1941, the federal government told the people, collect aluminum, ration nylon, and plant a victory garden. In 2021, they wouldn't sell you the goddamn seeds.
I know.
They shut it down so you can't. They will not allow you to be self-sufficient. And until we have enough representatives in Washington who can, number one, adequately explain to the American people why the shutdown is going to happen and what they need to do in their private lives to live as comfortable as life as possible while the government is shut down, it's not going to happen. We're going to continue to spend, and we're all going to be dead before it collapses. Because as long as they keep printing it, you don't have to pay for any of it.
Well,
and no, Peter, you shouldn't pay.
Look at history for a second. Okay.
5%.
Government shutdowns are nothing new. Okay. The first one, well, they're relatively new as far as the history of our country goes, because prior to 1976, we had never had a government shutdown. Yeah. In 1976, they changed the way Congress operated under the budget, and they proceeded to try to spend $56 billion, and Ford vetoed that, saying it was too expensive. And that caused the government to shut down for 10 days.
Yeah.
In 1977, it shut down 3 times. November to December for 8 days, October to November for 8 days, and September to October for 12 days. In 1978, it shut down for 17 days. Carter was president, and that would be the longest shutdown on record for the next 2 decades. In 79, shut down for 11 days. In 81, for 2 days. In 82, shut down twice, once for 1 day and once for 3 days. In 83, for 3 days. In 84, for 1 day. In 86, for 1 day. In 87, for 1 day, because that was the disagreement over funding Contra militants in Nicaragua. In 90, for 3 days, and that was George H.W. Bush's only shutdown. In 95, for 5 days, the first 2 shutdowns under Clinton over budget disputes, largest centered on Medicare and environmental regulations. And 95 to 96 was 21 days.
Mm-hmm.
And that used to be the longest shutdown in history.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the shutdown went on so long that museums relied on private funds in order to reopen. Therapists said they were getting crisis calls from out-of-work civil servants. In 2013, it shut down for 16 days. And that was the only shutdown under Obama.
Yeah.
In 2018, and
you're breaking up again, Mike.
We're
losing Mike.
Upon government shutdowns, December 22nd is now. This is dated January 14th.
Is it just his audio going or the video as well?
Video too.
But
I get his point about the shutdowns. We've had so many of them since once they started. Now we've had them pretty regularly, at least almost once per president that we've had. But here's the thing. They're very short. We've made them very, very short. Then we've made them very, very political. And we've made them useless.
Yeah, well, every shutdown has the same exact thing. There's no consequence. Jeremy's not here tonight, so I figured I would do a little double duty.
That's fine. That's funny. That's funny.
I wanted to get like this Brady Bunch thing going on where I could point at multiple cameras at one time and say, "Hey, look, I'm here. I'm here." Yeah, but that's the whole thing. Every one of the shutdowns has resulted in exactly the same thing. The public gets pissed, the media goes crazy, the Republicans get blamed, and then nothing happens.
It's a voting tactic.
Nothing
It's
gets
a voting
resolved.
Well, that's all
The
it
debt
is.
ceiling gets
Okay,
raised.
and
They don't go
the-
back to a balanced budget. Nothing
Well,
ever happens.
It's a voting trick.
it is. Okay, and its whole thing is this is the switch used to push through programs that are virtually unacceptable to the American people. Okay.
Yeah.
In other words, they put these packages in these spending bills that if the American people were actually aware of them, they'd say shut the government down. They would cry for the government to shut down.
And that's why I want to see a shutdown for 2 months. I want 60 days. I want us to go 30, 60 days shut down. I want to see that it will not. I would love to see the Republicans have the balls to stand up and say, it doesn't matter how long it's down unless we cut everything 10% every year for 20 years. We don't care. There is no other deal.
What they could do, which would probably be funny, is say, listen, we're going to shut down the government just so we could read line by line what the federal government is spending money on in the omnibus bill.
Okay.
And we're going to keep it on C-SPAN the whole time and read line by line, because I'm sure the American people would like to know why we gave a grant for $2 million to figure out why what it is about single fathers that makes them attractive to the opposite sex. Because we spent $2 million for that.
Yeah.
We spent $2 million for that. The people would probably like to know why we spent $400,000 to find out if there's a gnat in Mexico that's found in this one area of Mexico. A gnat, it's a very specific little bug.
Yeah.
They wanted to know, they spent this money looking at the gnat to find out whether or not the personality of the gnat that lives in the woods is different somehow than the same species of gnat that lives in the town at the base of the mountains.
Yeah.
They wanted to know if the personality of a gnat is different based on its geological choice of residency.
Here's the thing. We know there's a lot of these stupid things, like the shrimp on a treadmill. They gave cocaine to hamsters and rats. I mean, we know there's a bunch of these bills that are out there that are all absolutely stupid on its face and in any kind of review. And we know that they're doing those because they are meant to be kickbacks and to benefit their supporters, often in the education industry when it comes to Democrats, sometimes in the energy industries or other industries for Republicans. And these are all meant to do nothing but funnel money back to their supporters so that they can go through the next election with the same support that they had the last time.
But these are listen, these are crimes.
Well, yes.
These are crimes. This is not just a matter of making a donation or a grant for something stupid or ridiculous. This is embezzling the funds of the American people and using it to bribe other people. Every one of these things is evidence of a crime. It's not even evidence of a crime. It's proof of a crime. And the fact that they do it out in the open, right in front of you. Most criminals I know hide from the camera. They skulk around at night so they don't get caught. The Biden crime family has been doing their shit in front of the camera for 40 years.
Yeah.
These people in Congress, they're not only putting their name to their crime, they're voting on it. And they're letting it go. And the American people are just, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Because
Come on. I mean, really.
It's because we've been sold on this idea that that if we complain, we lose all the free stuff, and that you don't have the power to do anything. Except we do. We can elect anyone. We are the power of the government and the spending, and we control this. The fact is that they keep on saying, but we're doing something. And people are saying, well, at least they did something. It's like, no, but it's not effective. It's not efficient. It's not lawful. It is not. It is the equivalent of doing, hell, they would be doing less damage doing nothing.
All right. They just,
and I want them to go to that.
He spent $400,000 figuring out whether or not a squirrel that they gave cocaine to stored more nuts than one that didn't. Okay. But you know what they're pissed off about in Washington right now? George frickin' Santos.
Yeah.
They are so pissed off that somebody lied to get into office rather than the lies they tell while they're in office.
Yeah.
This guy just was ahead of the curve. I want the guy to run for president. I want the guy to be Speaker of the friggin' House. He can come dressed in drag. I don't give a shit. It'll be in front of adults. He's not doing story time at the library for the kids. I don't care. But when our elected officials are so angry that somebody disturbed the sanctity, the pristine virtue of the office of congressman because they lied about their resume, but they don't give a flying crap about spending money that we don't have so they can get kickbacks for their elections, and the American people don't care. I just don't understand.
They're upset because he got caught. And by getting caught, it makes them look bad because everyone can turn around and go, well, yeah, he's a liar, but so are you. We can point to Democrats and Republicans up and down the line for decades and go, lie, 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 lie. We see this all the time. How many times we've seen Joe Biden? He's lied about how many Americans are in Afghanistan. He's lied about how many Americans are in Ukraine. He's lied about his power in the world. He's lied about the Second Amendment. He's lied about his son, Hunter, and covered that all up. We got lots of lies we can point out. And yeah, I'm picking on Joe Biden, but he's in the executive branch. Of course I am. They're pissed off about Santos because he got caught before he got into the system, and makes everyone else question, if they lie to get in, what are they lying about while they're in? And everyone's paying attention to their lies again, rather than saying, well, here's a simple thing. He lied. Will he get reelected? No. Go on.
You know what? I hope he does get reelected. I hope he withstands the firestorm. I hope he gets reelected. I hope he becomes senator. I hope he becomes governor. I want the man to go to the moon as far as his political career. Because you know what? I don't care. I don't care about what he lied about. I don't care about what he lied. You know what I care about? What he votes about.
Yeah. What does he do?
That's what I care about. I care about how he's going to represent the people, his constituents, how his vote reflects on my belief system. That's what I care about. Not what he did before or after. I don't give a flying damn one way or the other. If he wants to dress up as Carmen Miranda and jump around at the Tropicana, I don't give a damn. I really don't care. I don't want him voting for $400,000 cocaine-riddled squirrels. That's the thing. Okay, I don't want him to curtail my rights. I don't want him to vote against that stuff. If he does a good job, I don't care. But right now, Republicans, they don't know what to do with the guy because the majority is nothing. The majority is nothing. If they try to remove this guy from office, they hold a special election, a Democrat's going to take it. And then bye speakership.
Well, here's the thing. Okay. First off, it doesn't matter what anybody outside of his constituency things. Okay.
Yeah.
His constituency is the only one he has to account for.
All right, the question is this: was he eligible to run for Congress? Yes or
Right.
no? Did he win his election by having a plurality of votes? Yes.
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 Did he get more than his opponent? Yes. Did he
Okay.
get
And
sworn in?
regardless of whether he lied or not, okay, it's not up to anybody outside of his constituency to hold him accountable for that.
That's
Okay.
why it's
Because lying is not a violation of law unless you lie under oath.
right.
He did not lie under oath.
Right. And like I said, let him keep her. I don't care. We
Okay.
have had liars.
And the thing is he was duly elected. Okay. Now, if his constituents want to challenge that, then that's up to them. Okay. It's not up to anybody outside of his constituency. Next thing on that is they have the opportunity in 2 years to remedy it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just cut him out
There
off.
is no recourse. Okay. He has not violated any law. Okay.
Yeah.
So as a
Violated
result,
trust
there
of
is
the
nothing
American
that can be done about it.
There's nothing that should be done about this. It's up to the voters.
Look, if
we
Exactly.
were-
And they have the opportunity in 2 years to rectify it.
if we were going to remove politicians post mortem based on their history of lies prior to their election, Joe Biden should have been removed 24 months ago.
Joe Biden, Adam Schiff, Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. We can go down a list of these people that would be removed.
Oh,
Right.
This
wait a
is
second. You know what? You know why I'm defending this guy so staunchly?
why.
Because they're introducing that legislation that if I, being a Caucasoid American, should happen to speak ill.
Oh, HR 61. HR 61.
I may be charged with a hate crime. So
oh yeah.
So it's not that I'm really defending the guy for lying or anything else like that. I'm afraid to say anything bad because I may be, brought up on a hate crime for speaking my mind.
You know what I think? If anyone hasn't seen the last week's conversation,
I'm just so glad I caught Michael off guard enough with that when I made him laugh.
Yeah, that was funny. As soon as you started going, I was like, HR, because we talked about it last week, and I advised people look into Sheila Jackson Lee, look at HR 61. You want to talk about racism in government? There you go. It is ridiculous. It's stupid. And that's what HR 61 brings about. Oh, I can't say that about them. Otherwise, I'm going to be put into jail for a hate crime because I'm talking about a politician that deceived people. Oh my God, I've got to let him deceive the public.
Politicians.
It's ridiculous.
It's any person of color.
I know, but this is
if you
how they
talk
would abuse it.
disparagingly about any person of color.
I understand, but this is the point. This is how it's weaponized. Oh,
but she's also
about this politician, this person in this organization.
Wasn't she also the one that introduced legislation that if anybody talked ill of Congress?
I think she co-sponsored a bill like that a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the woman has. Oh wait, can I call her? Did I assume her gender?
She's a racist.
What is a woman? The person, the racist. That she is just. I don't understand how this person keeps getting reelected when you have. I mean, it's the blatant. I mean, there is nothing. I mean,
because she's a Democrat and you're racist not to vote. It is because she's a Democrat and you are a racist for not voting for her because of the color of her skin. You're a sexist for not voting for her because she's identifies as a woman. That's the reason why, because you cannot challenge her and question her at all and any of her motivations, because to do so is to confirm that you're the racist that she's assuming you already are, even though by definition, the things she is saying and doing are racist and sexist and anti-American. And I don't say that lightly, because Americans can have many, many views. I don't have to agree with them all. But when you are literally setting up law and trying to promote law that actively takes away people's rights, silences their, takes away their constitutional rights, it silences them and punishes them for actually being a human being, I am livid. I was upset about HR 61 last week when we were talking about it. I still am. I think Sheila Jackson Lee she's not stupid, which makes her evil.
The fact that she could even introduce a piece of crap letter of legislation like that, and her own colleagues don't look at her and go, "Are you out of your friggin' mind?"
Well, they did, because no one's supporting it.
But
Not
they got
one
to go
person
further than that.
supports
They got to go further than that. Why not censure her?
it. Well, they should. And I would be more than happy to support that, whether it comes from a Democrat or a Republican, Libertarian, Conservative, I don't care. If the Green Party wanted to say, let's censure Sheila Jackson Lee for this racist legislation, I'd be all behind it. But they have convinced the Democratic Party, especially the progressives, that whole wing, that if you say anything about Sheila Jackson Lee and the legislation, HR 61 and others, then that can only be because you are a racist. And under her definitions, as she put it into that law, I am supposedly a white supremacist based on her opinion of what I should be. That is so anti-American. It is beyond the pall.
I just don't understand why it seems that. All right, the last time that I can think that Republicans ganged up together and supported something that was blatantly unconstitutional and rights crushing and restricting was the Patriot Act.
Yeah, that was horrible.
That's the last thing that I could think where they joined forces with the Democrats and said, screw your Constitution, it doesn't make it. What is it about the Constitution? What is it about the Democrats that makes them just constantly believe that these documents are fungible, that they can be just ripped up and torn asunder like they don't even exist? I don't understand.
I can offer some insight on this. Okay. And it comes from how you interpret the first three words of the Constitution. And depending on how you interpret those first three words, we the people, determines on how you actually interpret the rest of the Constitution.
They see it as organizations and specific elites,
now,
not the public.
I'm going to ask both of you, and I'm going to see what your answers are. We the people, is that collectively, or does it mean individually?
Individual.
It's individual.
Okay. Why?
This was an agreement. This is a statement of individuals speaking as a group to formally list what the powers of the government are, so as not to restrict any more than absolutely necessary the rights and freedoms of all of the individual people that make up the United States.
Yeah,
if that's a reasonably articulate way of me describing how I view the Constitution.
And I think is absolutely correct. It is that consensus of individual thoughts in agreement on the fact that these are the absolutes of our freedom and individuality, and that the government does not have the right to impose on that individuality, because we are not a collective, which is what they were being treated as under the King George. He was treating us as a monolithic group. Oh, you are all the same. You will all do what I say. That's how you get dictatorships and authoritarianism, is because you're a monolithic group that you're zombies and you're going to do what I say. Individuals can never be treated that way. So you have to be
Okay.
an individual.
Now, I asked in chat to Dahl
Now,
the same question. Okay, and Dahl answered, if I'm interpreting correctly, it's both. The people as defined within the context of the ancillary writings and the verbiage within the document both mean mankind and as an individual. Democrats
mhm.
and the Democrat Party was based upon we the people as a collective. So it read we the people as being the people as a whole, not as an individuals. Now, if we take it as we the people means as a whole or as a group or collectively, then it means that the Constitution means whatever the majority says it means. So
Mhm.
the majority wants to change the definition of just and proper, then they can change that definition. If they want to change the definition of interstate commerce, then they can change that definition. There doesn't have to be an amendment process. That's where they get the Constitution is a living document. Okay. Now, it also means that government is responsible for assigning rights. If we take it as a collective, okay, or not government, it means that the collective is responsible for assigning rights and determining what those rights are. If we look at we the people as individuals, meaning individually, then it also means that rights precede government. And rights are undeniable, they're unalienable. You can't give away your rights. You can't give up your rights. You always have your rights. Okay, and there are certain rights that you cannot, no matter what you do, you can never give them up. You can fail to exercise them, but you still obtain those rights. Okay, so if we look at it in that basis, rights precede government, and government's only obligation to the people that it governs is the protection of those rights. Now, if we look at we the people as a collective, then that whole dichotomy changes. And that's why Democrats want to get rid of the Constitution, because if you thoroughly read the Constitution and you also look at the other documents that support the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Magna Carta, the Decree of Rights in the 1400s, or Declaration of Rights in the 1400s, you will find that there is no way to look at we the people as a collective and actually keep rights preceding government and rights as unalienable or inalienable. And that's why they want to get rid of the Constitution, is because it does not match their worldview of we the people as a collective.
It terrifies me. It really does. I mean, there's no other way of saying it. These guys are so
hell-bent on the destruction of the United States.
control. I don't think it's even that they want to destroy America.
They
want power.
Well, here's the thing. In order for them to achieve ultimate power, they have to go to their one world government theology. And the only way you can do that is the destruction of the United States and the complete dismantling of our existing system, and wind up having one person who's no longer president, no longer representatives, no longer House or Senate or anything else, but an ambassador to the one world government. That's what their main goal is one person to one dictatorial situation that controls us, as a collective, and then that person just reports back to, whoever the hell is sitting in George Soros's chair, or whoever the hell with that. And look, and all you have to do to know that I'm not lying to you. Have you watched any of the footage from the World Economic Forum this week?
Yeah, no, not this week.
Have you watched some of the shit that these people are saying? Tony Blair wants a worldwide database of who's been vaccinated and who's not. They want to have 1 billion people by the end of next year no longer able, not willing to, not voluntarily, unable to obtain meat by next year. 1 billion people. They want to cut the supply of meat off for 1 billion people, because that would be a good start, to save the environment. The shit that was coming out of that place this week is absolutely frightening. You want to know why the Georgia Guidestones mysteriously blew up? It's because of the crap that's going on at the World Economic Forum, because everything that was on the Georgia Guidestones, including reducing the world's population to 500 million rather than 7 billion, is being spewed by the people who wish to control us. And that's the Schwabs and the Soroses, who oddly enough had to not show up at the World Economic Forum this week.
No. Yeah.
But Al Gore was there. You know what he brought with him? A lockbox.
Of course he did.
Yeah. But
and actually I want to touch a little bit on the Biden controversy as far as classified documents go.
God, yeah, that.
Michael,
I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because,
dude, he said there was no there. Weren't you paying attention?
Well, here's what I want to.
Old news, buddy.
I've got one specific question. I want this answered by Biden himself. I want this answered by the National Archives. Okay. Biden did not become faculty at the University of Penn.
Nope.
Or until 2017, a year after he left office.
Yeah.
Okay. Why was he still in possession of classified documents?
He shouldn't have been, and he wasn't a professor. And those documents.
Why didn't anybody know that he was in possession of classified documents until 7 years later?
They were in a lockbox.
Because no one walked into the closet that they happened to be in.
Now,
super secure closet.
Everybody knew that Trump, almost immediately after he left office, retained classified documents.
Yeah,
because he told the Albrights he had him.
The big difference is that they were gunning for Trump. They were looking for something they could attack. They didn't care about Biden. And by the way, Obama has documents. Clinton still has documents, the ones that she didn't wipe out and when she destroyed her subpoenaed servers that had God knows how many people had access to. They didn't care about that. It's not that this is, we've heard many of them say when they want to protect someone, that this isn't unusual. It's that this is a target. This is an opportunity. They had an opportunity to go after Trump because we know for a fact that the government knew exactly all the documents that Trump had. We know exactly where they were. They knew exactly how many there were. They knew how it was secured. And they had been in discussions multiple times, even a month before the raid, to be able to get those documents. With Biden, all you had to do is go over to where he had his Corvette in that garage and get access to them because no one cared. They were sitting on a pile next to his Corvette in and he emphasized this, a locked garage because it was safe in a locked garage. Yeah,
Right.
that sounds like Fort Knox to me.
Well, look, we know for a fact that the Justice Department worked with Biden because, as Peter just pointed out, they found the documents, the first batch of documents, on November 2nd,
They actually
before
swam
the midterms elections, and the Justice Department agreed at the Biden's request not to report anything until after the new year, until after the new House was in session.
Yes.
All right. Now, if I mug somebody and I get locked up for it, and they say, okay, you're going to go to trial or whatever it is, and then like a week before the trial, I see my victim walking down the street, and I go over to my victim and I go, hey, you're not going to be testifying there, are you? And walk away. You know what? I just committed another felony called witness tampering.
Yes.
Why is the Biden administration allowed to now tamper with the testimony of the people that is going to be witnessing against him if it should come into an investigation? That's the Department of Justice. Why is he allowed to tamper with evidence, so to speak? Because them coming out and saying, hey, listen, we found these documents, and he said, hey, listen, don't report it until after then. That's tampering.
They call it it's national security. This is a national security matter. Not like when they go after Trump and they say, oh, he's got all these classified documents that might have the nuclear codes and might have leaked to Russia. No evidence of any of that. They're just saying it. But Biden, who absolutely has documents he should never have had that have been in the hands of multiple people and were found in a closet and or recorded, and I can't imagine that there's no spy agency in the world that didn't look at his garage as it was being taped on TV and go, hey, zoom in that pile of documents.
He was on an episode of Jay Leno's Garage where he gave Jay Leno a test drive of the friggin' Corvette, and they pulled it out of the garage on television with a film crew there, the garage door open, and the pile of paperwork sitting in plain view. Yeah. Just the fact that they left there and that was there was open. The fact that his son is the legal owner of the house or legal resident of the house. There's photos of his son in the car with naked women in the garage.
Yeah.
This is what I said before. Every criminal I know, and I know a lot of criminals, they do their shit under cover of night. This family does everything. I have never seen this one person with so many pictures of them doing illicit drugs as I have Joe Biden. Of what's his face?
Hunter.
What is his son's name? Hunter Biden. I
want to go back to the first set of documents that were found. Okay, because supposedly the reason why they were found was they were packing up his UPenn office.
Yeah.
Okay. Those documents had to get to his UPenn office somehow.
How'd they get there?
Why weren't they discovered then?
How'd they get there?
Exactly.
Twice. We know they were.
How did they get there? Because Biden's lawyers do not have national security clearance. They do not have the ability for them to retain, possess, transport, or obtain any documents that are of national security or classified. He didn't have authority to have them. How does his lawyer have authority? How does his lawyer now take documents that are illegal for him to possess and hand them to somebody else? They were illegal for Joe to have them, illegal for his lawyers to have them. Whoever transported them to the garage, it was illegal for them. Every one of these people has committed a felony.
Yes.
Every single one of them has committed a felony.
Now,
like Rob Kardashian taking a murder weapon and sticking it in a garbage pail, he's now an accessory after the fact.
Yes.
Okay, the other question I want to ask, okay, is everybody's focused on the garage.
Yeah, what about the UPenn Center?
We need to focus a lot more on the UPenn. How many secret meetings did he have in that office? How many people had access to those documents in that office? How were the documents, quote unquote, secured in that office? Because cleaning people had keys to his office. Other faculty people had keys to his office. His assistants had keys to his office, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, go down the line. I bet you a billion people had keys to his damn office.
And I'll give you one even worse. The UPenn Center is not a governmental agency. Anything within there is not subject to a FOIA request. So you can't even get a copy of the logbook unless it becomes part of the investigation on the DOJ to find out who's been in and out of that place, which China is the number one contributor of.
Exactly.
Speaking of logbooks, they said, "Oh, there's no logbook for the house in Delaware either." Well, guess what? Secret Service keeps a logbook.
Yeah, and they won't reveal.
Nobody else does. That's how we know Louis Farrakhan was at the Obama house 8 times during the election cycle when he said he wasn't.
I know. But let me go back to the UPenn Center. So something that I found in the research most people don't realize. You guys have heard me talk about the Confucius Institute before. And for people who don't know what that is, the Confucius Institute is a group this is funded by China. They go to colleges around the world, mostly in the United States, and they pay at least $250,000, sometimes $500,000 a year to have their experts about China go into your college to teach students about how great the Communist Party of China is, the CCP. That's their job. Teach culture and how great China is now. It has been determined by about 60 countries in the world and currently under investigation with the DOJ right now that it's actually a spy agency. This is how they have spies infiltrating our colleges. They had them, huh?
Fang?
Yeah. Well, actually, she went there in the University of Delaware where Eric Swalwell went. Fang went there. And they had a Confucius Institute. That's how they met.
You don't say.
No. So that's how this thing operates. And wouldn't you know that 1 year before Biden showed up at the University of Pennsylvania, the Confucius Institute had already been at the University of Pennsylvania. It got shut down 1 year before Biden showed up. Here's the thing. If it's a spy agency and their job is to create spies and to infiltrate, can you tell me in the University of Pennsylvania that none of the personnel from the Confucius Institute were still at the University of Pennsylvania, that none of their people had infiltrated, say, became a janitor at the University of Pennsylvania, that any of their potential spies that they turned, like Eric Swalwell might have been, let's say it that way, that they had another professor or another student who was at the university who might have had access to those offices, or a janitor or working as a janitor and have access, know that Biden is there and say, hey, he left some documents. Let's go through them. They cannot honestly and openly say that was impossible, considering these documents were sitting in a box, not a safety box, not a lock box, in a cardboard box at the bottom of a closet of an empty room.
Yeah, so they had no security.
Exactly. And we know the Confucius Institute had an influence on the University of Pennsylvania, and their influence was meant to create and proliferate spies.
And on top of that, okay, Biden's been in office for what, 2 years now?
Yep.
Okay. So who's had access to that office for those 2 years?
Everyone. Literally everyone has had access to those documents.
I mean, it hasn't just sat empty for 2 years.
No. Everyone has had access to that. Everyone's had the opportunity to run in there and copy, look at it, read it, make pictures of it, send it to their buddies. anyone and everyone. Same thing
Okay.
with his garage.
Honestly, from what's coming out, even and this is a stretch, mind you, even if the vice president was authorized to retain classified documents after they left office, as the president is, even if the vice president had that same capability, this is still by far a larger security threat than the documents that were obtained at Mar-a-Lago, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, because the documents at Mar-a-Lago were at least secured. These documents weren't at either location.
But Joy Behar wants to give Joe the benefit of the doubt.
Of course she does. And they want to say that it's all about he didn't
The arbiter of national security and all things wholesome, Joy Behar.
Here's their saving grace for Joe Biden. He's cooperating
after he got caught. That was on CNBC. There was Joseph I forget his name. He's one of the talking heads for CNBC. He was on and he was talking. Well, after CBS broke the news and told the public, then there has been complete transparency by the Biden administration. So we should be happy because they've been completely transparent after they got caught.
All right. Now, here's the thing that I want to know, and this is the big one for me. How did the story get to the public in the first place?
CBS News.
Who gave it to CBS News?
We don't know. And it's somebody inside or
because
really good
because
report.
if it was Garland, believe me, if this was something that went from, say, a field supervisor's office to a district supervisor's office and say, hey, this is too important, I got to speak directly to the director, and they got, hey, Garland, Sleepy Joe piles paperwork.
It had to be somebody in the DOJ who had access to the documents, and that individual went on the record quietly as a protected source with the news media. It's the only way they could have found it.
Right. Now, what I want to know is, because I don't think if this was something that went directly to the top levels of the feds that we would have ever known about it, because Merrick Garland would have just buried it.
They tried.
He would have buried it completely. What I want to know is, when did CBS get the report for it? Was the report because we know that Biden and Merrick Garland worked together to suppress any acknowledgement or admission until after the midterm elections, until after Congress was seated. I want to know, I'm sorry, I have hiccups.
Mm-hmm.
When was the report made to the news, and did the news sit on the story from before the elections? Because they found the documents, the first batch, on November 2nd.
Then before then, actually.
Well, before then,
it was made known to the DOJ and National Archives on November 2nd. Prior to that, Biden's lawyers knew.
All right. Because I want you to keep something in mind, and this is how messed up the world is right now. I don't remember the young lady's name at ABC News, but 2 years before they brought charges against Jeffrey Epstein,
mm-hmm.
she had the list of everybody that was at the island. She had interviews with the girls who were victimized. She had videos, photos, and everything else. ABC News killed the story. Yeah. They killed the story, and they threatened this reporter. You're never going to say nothing about it. The only reason we know about what she said is because it was caught on hot camera, hot mic.
Yeah.
Now, think of how much bigger the players must be in the Epstein Island case. If they would kill that, but allow Biden to now get hung up after trying to hang Trump out to dry for all these months with his documents. You see that progression? It's like all right, we're not going to we'll let Joe, cook on this one, but we're not letting nothing out about the Epstein thing.
Because Epstein more people.
Yeah. So when they're gonna say, okay, we're gonna let out enough information to try and indict a former president. Now we're gonna let out enough information that could potentially impeach a current president and indict his son for all the crimes that he's now gonna be forced to admit to committing, because now they've admitted that the evidence on the desktop on the laptop was real, but they still won't let us know anything about Epstein Island. Imagine the power players that are involved with that. Imagine.
By the way, I do want to mention
how many children are dead.
Oh, God knows. But I did want to mention something Jan had mentioned about the University of Pennsylvania denying FOIAs. To clarify, the University of Pennsylvania isn't completely under the FOIA regulations for the state of Pennsylvania, or as it's not a government agency, so that invalidates almost every FOIA request. But they are a state agency, but they have a limited amount of FOIA that they can provide based on the nature of the university and dealing with individuals. It is difficult. You can get a FOIA if it's very specific and if it is very tailored and it somehow ties into the public funding that University of Pennsylvania was receiving. It gets really crazy with universities. I'm currently still fighting with the University of Binghamton, Binghamton University, about the ongoing Department of Education lawsuit because they violated the First Amendment. And they still are fighting me about providing those documents because it's not specific enough. So that's the thing about that. And a lot of people don't realize you can FOIA universities on very specific things if it deals with public funding, which then makes it state, which then puts them in that regulation.
And Biden's thing is mostly funded by China. So there's another kink in the works too. All right, listen, I'm going to hit you guys with 3 updates real quick, and then I'm going to book out of here.
Yep.
First update, a judge has put a lot of restrictions on the New Jersey's new gun law crap. And he said, nope, I can't do it. He's put a whole bunch of stops on that. The Supreme Court has rejected an emergency injunction request to hold back on New York's thing, and everybody's up in arms about it. But listen, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. What the Supreme Court basically said is, we know they're pushing it. Gather a little more complaint, a little more evidence, bring it back. Because I think Supreme Court wants to hit New York with as heavy a weight as they possibly can, and in effect hit New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and all the other states at the same time who pass the same side of kind of onerous restrictions.
Let me interject on that just a little bit. Okay, the Supreme Court also is deferring to the lower court right now out of respect, allowing the lower court to actually handle this before they interject in it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why they refuse to issue a stay on it. They're allowing the lower court to actually handle it, which is proper.
Right. And they're asking the lower court to handle it with the Bruin decision in mind.
Yeah.
And if it comes back to the Supreme Court, they're going to say, okay, now we'll drop the hammer on it. So all's not lost. We're still winning. We're winning these. We're winning them. It's not a big thing. One we're not winning, and we need your help with, everybody. And this is very serious. You know that we have our YouTube channels that we do. One of which is my personal baby, The Range Report. That's where I go out and I do all the shooting and gun reviews and all the rest of that stuff. Michael has the Michael Marshall channel, and combined, we've got the Liberty First channel. Vass has his channel, the no sound bites allowed, but my channel's got a big problem. YouTube has now increased their regulations as to what is going to be permissible on the channel.
Oh yeah.
So you're gonna love this. I can't load a gun on YouTube anymore.
What?
I'm not allowed to put bullets in it. I can have the gun loaded and I could shoot the gun. I can't show you loading it. I can't show you unloading it. I can't put a magazine in it. I can't take a magazine out of it. Rifle, pistol, shotgun, revolver. What? If I just completed doing a whole bunch of videos on firearm maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not allowed to upload them I could upload them, but they're going to take my channel down because anytime that you maintain a firearm, you have to dismantle it in order to take it apart, clean it, maintain it, lubricate it, and everything else. That's going to be considered firearm manufacturing, and they've made that illegal on the terms of service. So I can't show any of the maintenance videos because I was filming a whole bunch of maintenance videos for foundation members. I'm going to make a whole series so foundational information, and I'm in the process of editing them, and I get hit with the new terms of service agreement. I can't show you how to mount sights, a scope. I can't show you how to align a scope or align sights. I can't mount a flashlight onto any of my firearms. I can't mount a laser onto any of my firearms. I can't change grips, the grip panels on any of my firearms. So if I just keep this black powder gun sitting here handy. If I want to take these wood scales off and replace them with bone or polymer or whatever, they'll shut my channel down. They'll shut my channel. The next thing that they're going to show, that they're going to restrict, is shooting the gun.
Of course.
The next thing they're going to go after is me cocking the hammer and firing. That's it. YouTube is now dead as far as Second Amendment and gun-related content goes.
Now,
so here's what we've done. Over the last 24 hours, I have been painstakingly downloading every single video from the Range Report YouTube channel and have been uploading them to the Range Report Rumble video service channel.
Yeah.
It's going to take about 2 weeks because I have it being automated where Rumble is extracting all the videos and bringing it over. However, every video that we do from now on over on YouTube is going to be heavily edited. I am going to blue box every firearm, every bullet, every magazine, every scope, every sight, every flashlight, every target. Every time the gun goes off, you're going to hear it go oink or something like that. Some ridiculous sound. And then in the description of every single video is going to be a link to the actual video that can be viewed over on Rumble. Because even though they're not going to allow me to show any of the stuff that's on there, we're still going to take advantage of the monetization, because the monetization, for as little as the channel actually generates, is going to be used to buy ammunition so that we can actually film more videos over on Rumble.
Right.
So if at all possible, if you go to the Liberty First Foundation Facebook page right now, I made the announcement earlier, and I have a link to the Rumble channel. There's only a very, very few videos that are posted on it. But if you find the link, please go to Rumble. Please sign up for an account. Please subscribe to the channel over there as well. We really would appreciate you doing it, because we got to get information out to the people. And Dale, I'm I'm gonna be doing a video this weekend detailing the whole thing and redirecting everybody over to Rumble. And every video, like I said, every video that we do from now on is going to have a 1 or 2 minute preview video that we're going to put directly on YouTube just for the purpose of redirecting people over to Rumble.
Yeah.
Because if we're over on Rumble and you don't know about it, you're not going to find us. And the information we have, I'm not Cecil B. DeMille, but I make a pretty good video. I make a pretty informative video. I'm not a bad shot. You know, I do to look at, so you have fun.
I am working on some things, but this is going to bring me into our next thing here pretty soon. I am working on some things on our website so that you won't have to go to Rumble or YouTube. You'll be able to go directly to our website. However, our traffic on YouTube does, as Frank said, allow us to monetize our channels and get some revenue there. So, as far as Liberty First Foundation YouTube channel goes, it's going to be basically trailers for videos that are going to be hosted elsewhere. And I'm in the process of figuring out exactly where those are going to be hosted so that they can actually be played directly on our website. Okay, and the link will be directly from our website. Because our website can't handle that type of traffic. We are going to be working on having a video hosting solution that will host the videos and they will stream through our website. However, that requires money. And if you've been watching us or following us for any length of time, you know right now that we are in the middle of our 2023 membership drive. And the biggest reason why we decided to start up a paid membership this year is because, quite frankly, it is expensive doing what we do. Mm-hmm. And in order for us to do more, we have to have more resources to do so. Okay. And what I'm talking about by more is bringing content like Frank was just talking about to you guys. Okay. Ammunition costs, range costs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All that costs money. Okay. Hosting the stuff. Okay. Yeah. Hosting on YouTube is free, but hosting our website is not. That's an expense that we take on. Website development costs me in time. It also costs me money in various plugins and stuff that go on behind the scenes for our website. That costs money. Okay, so we put out a lot of money in order for us to do what we do and to reach the people that we reach. And that's why we're asking for your help, because with your help, that is going to give us resources to be able to reach even more people. And if we can reach more people, we can get this information out to a larger audience. And through the power of critical mass, if we ever reach that point, we can actually start a change in this country. But we can't do it when we're only reaching a few people.
Yeah.
Okay. And one of the ways that we are working on reaching more people is through this paid membership drive. We're also working to try to reach more people by getting our audience to like, share, and subscribe to our content. Okay. Like and share our live streams. Get that out in front of more people for us. Go over to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our channels. And while you're there, make sure you get the alerts and also share it. Share our content that we share on Facebook. We've got Instagram accounts. Share our stuff on there. Okay, we're going on Rumble. We have social media presence, but we need your help in getting the word out that we're there. Okay. We there are ways that you can support us, and it isn't just necessarily financially. Another ways that you can support us is by helping us get the exposure that we need. And the more exposure that we get, the more people that we can reach. And that's what our ultimate mission is. We're not in it to make money.
If we were in this to make money,
We would have stopped a long time ago.
we could have had, listen, here's the deal. If we wanted to be able to make a ton of money on something, you would see us doing what half of the people on the internet do, shilling for somebody's product. Believe me, I get phone calls. I get offers from gun companies. Hey, we'll send you this if you say that. We'll send you this if you say that. One of the whole things about us is we tell you straight, listen, we don't sugarcoat anything. If we firmly believe something to be true or something to be false, we tell you. And that's why my catchphrase for signing off is, be safe and shoot straight, because we're always going to be honest with you. We are not going to lie to anybody. Listen, I got nothing to gain by lying to anybody. Neither does Michael, neither does Jeremy. None of us who are on this side of the camera lens have anything to gain by lying. We could, but the one thing that we can't afford to lose is our integrity. And each of us has spent a lifetime in private and public life building our integrity to make sure that we could never be, we have to be held beyond reproach. We could make money if we wanted to. I mean, believe me, we tossed around the idea of the Michael Marshall calendar, and we got up some Speedos and,
Yeah, the problem there is we would have had to pay people.
It's the printing. Well, it's the printing fees. We were going to have one out, but they said we needed long lens for that. But that's beside the point. But the fact of the matter is, listen, we do spend a lot of money on this thing. We spend a lot of time with this thing, and we're all in the process of, Michael spent an awful lot of time not being able to work because of his injuries. I've spent a lot of time not being able to work because of mine. Vass has had his own troubles. We have each done, had our own financial hiccups that we've had to deal with, but yet this is one of the burdens that we continue to carry because it's important to us to do so. And if we can get some support from the people out there, even if you can't afford to, to buy a membership, make a donation, share a link, clicking a button don't cost a damn thing. It don't cost nothing. And it's not a whole hell of a lot to ask, We're not Sally Struthers out here telling you for 56 cents a day you can feed a starving kid in Ethiopia. No, we're saying click a link. It's free. If we have an Amazon link that we can put up and you want to buy something, eventually we'll be able to go to our website, buy something through our website. So maybe that extra click will give us a nickel here or there. Yeah, it might help us out. I mean, we could lie and cheat and do everything the wrong way, but how you think about us and the reputation we've built for your trust is worth so much more than what we could shill away for somebody else. So
and
that, I'm getting the hell out of here.
I'm gonna go ahead and let Frank get out of here. So
this is an unsolicited plug, and it's not paid for or nothing else like that. For you guys who are diabetics, I'm going to try every week that we come on here to give you the name of a product that I have experimented with that I have found out is pretty good, in my opinion. And like I said, these are not paid endorsements and nothing else like that, but it's sometimes you find something that works for you, it lives up to the expectation, is actually pretty good. If you go out and you're a sweet guy, like you like sweets, the sweet stuff, I'm a lemonade nut. I love lemonade. Lori makes the best lemonade in the world, but I can't drink it because it's got the sugar in it. There's a product out there called Nature's Twist. It's 0 sugar, made with spring water, and you'll be damn certain you can't taste the artificial sweetener in there. So this is helping me quench a thirst, quench my sweet tooth, and helping me keep my blood sugar down. So that's just a little healthy drink for you guys who are on that side of the diabetic scale. Nature's Twist. It's some pretty good stuff. I recommend it. I also recommend bullets. Buy bullets. Lots and lots of bullets. All right. I'm out of here, guys. I love you, everybody online. Love you. Yeah, Manjaro. I don't know if I had the Manjaro. Oh no, I can't afford Manjaro. $1,700 a shot. Not working. Can't do that, Pete. All right. Love you guys. Be safe. Shoot straight. Remember, find us on Rumble. Look for the range report. You'll find us there. Love you guys. And remember, be a member. Click a link. Do it now.
Thanks, Frank. You have a great weekend.
You too, guys. Be safe.
Actually, I just jumped on and while he was talking, went to the range report and did all my follows on Rumble because I'm on there too. And so gave him my support.
Okay. Get back what we were talking about. Frank was talking about integrity.
Yeah.
And the thing is our integrity is towards the Constitution. It isn't towards a party. It is towards the United States of America, we the people, and the United States Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And those are our compass. Those are our beacons for restoring this country. And that's ultimately what our mission is. Our mission is to educate the people. Right now, the biggest problem in this country is the lack of education about the political process and about how government is actually supposed to operate instead of how it is operating. And that is our mission, is to teach people to understand that the Constitution is nonpartisan, to understand that the Constitution has room for differing viewpoints, to understand that if we abide by the Constitution, it doesn't favor one party over another. It doesn't favor a race over another. It doesn't favor this. It is equality. Okay? A lot of people will try to convince you that the Constitution was a pro-slavery document, which it wasn't. The Constitution actually led to the abolition of slavery.
Yeah, that was the whole point.
And it was because of the Constitution that we are actually able to abolish slavery. And we're one of the first nations in the world to abolish slavery, and one of the shortest time periods to actually have slaves. This is things that people do not understand about the Constitution. This is things that people do not understand about the greatness of this country and of this nation. Yeah, slavery was a blight on our history. But because of our history, we were able to go through the slavery process, which every other country in this world has gone through in the shortest time. When we compare ourselves to nations like England, Russia, the countries in Africa, the Middle East, etc., Greece, Rome, which had centuries more time of slavery than the United States did. Okay, we need to understand that our history is what makes us who we are. Our history is, even with its flaws and the mistakes that we've had in our history, we have course corrected because we had that foundational document of the United States Constitution in order to guide us. And the further we get away from that, the further we find ourselves getting into more and more problems and trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why we do what we do. Okay. So if you want to restore our country, you want to make this country be a beacon of what true liberty is, what true freedom is, then support our cause, support our message. Okay. And if you can't support it, if you can't help by getting a membership, help us spread the word. That's all we ask. And we are going to be upfront with it. And we're going to make mistakes. I'm not going to deny that. I guarantee we're going to make mistakes. Okay? But we're also going to be held accountable for those mistakes, and we're going to own up to our mistakes. Okay? Can you say your government is owning up to its mistakes?
No.
Can you say your government is admitting its mistakes?
No.
No. They try to cover them up. Okay? Let's change that. Let's get a truly transparent government. That transparency begins with the United States Constitution.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys. Thank you for everybody for watching. You can join us every week here for our live stream. It's held every week, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I want to thank Michael for his work and help with this. It's been a godsend. Thank everybody in the chat. You brought up some excellent points and in the comments. And if you miss the comments or you miss comment stream, if you're on Facebook, go to YouTube. Go to our YouTube channel because you're going to find content. You're going to find comments there that you didn't see on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, go to our Facebook channel, watch live stream there because you're going to find comments there that you didn't see on YouTube. So go visit our profiles. Okay. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, and you can find us on Instagram. And we will be adding additional social media channels as we can. Thank you guys, and stay safe, and we will see you next week.
Be well, everybody.
Michael, do you have any?
No, you
Okay.
covered it all.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Michael, and we will see you next week.
All right.